Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. We are back from our summer vacation. I am feeling relaxed, I am feeling energized, and I am so excited because this week on the show, I'm sitting down with Jason Morningstar for the second half of our Desperation two-parter as we play Desperation, the Isabel. Desperation, which you probably remember from our previous episode with Sam Dunewald, but in case you don't, first off, you should go listen to that episode because it's great. Second of all, Desperation is a pair of small role-playing games built on the same dark tone and mechanics, designed for pick-up-and-play gothic storytelling experiences steeped in actual history. These are dark, lyrical games about people pushed far past their limits. The Isabel is set aboard a three-masted cod schooner fishing in the Gulf of Alaska in 1888. Her passengers and crew have unpalatable secrets, and they are sailing into a storm the Isabel cannot weather. A doomed ship, raging seas, and a handful of leaking dories await them. And then the hard times begin. Party people, I love these games. I have been thinking about Desperation since I first played it with Sam, since I first sat down with it. Getting to play this game with Jason and really further explore the weird history horror space was absolutely thrilling. The game offers such a unique, interesting approach to kind of the storytelling, story game experience. I loved this experience from beginning to end, and I really think you're going to be just as excited to hear the story that we told. This one was great. I'm thrilled about it. You can learn more about Desperation and pick up a copy for yourself at bullypulpitgames.com or check the show notes for more information. Jason is, of course, the designer of Desperation, as well as the designer of Fiasco and Grey Ranks and a ton of other beautiful, inspirational games that shape how I approach thinking about story games and thinking about role-playing games. Jason's great. I loved, this was such an honor to get to play this game. I'm not going to gush any more than I have to, other than to say, check out bullypulpitgames.com or check the show notes for more information. But first, an ad. But for me this time, hey party people, it's Present Jeff. I want to talk to you about a new thing that we're doing over on Patreon that I think you might really want to check out, and that is Party of One Plus One. Party of One Plus One is a new Patreon-exclusive bonus series that we're doing, which expands on Party of One, deeper conversations with returning guests. We're featuring bonus episodes where we continue the stories we tell on the podcast, new games with returning guests to keep the conversation about our shared passions going, and deeper looks at games that we're playing on the show to kind of show off the games that we're playing in a different light. We recently released an episode with friend of the show, Jadzia Axelrod, where we did kind of a superhero DC Comics fan fiction story starring Galaxy from Galaxy the Prettiest Star. We're about to drop a deeper dive into the game Pale Dot, which we're playing next week on the show, with designer Devin Nelson to kind of show off the range of stories that game can play. We've got returning guests like Emily Booza, Rich Howard, Senda. There's a lot of cool stuff. I think that it's worth checking out if you haven't checked out the Patreon before, if you checked it out a while back and dropped off. All of that can be found at patreon.com/JeffStormer. If I say something else different later on in the episode, you're listening to an old episode, that URL is out of date. It's patreon.com/JeffStormer. And now, back to me in the past. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This is genuinely so exciting. I am sitting down with Jason Morningstar. Jason, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Oh, please. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so thrilled. This is genuinely a delight and a pleasure, and the experience to sit down for a game with you is a joy, and the particular game that we're going to play today, I'm excited. There's some anticipation, a little bit of nervousness for where this story is going to take us, but overall, I am beaming, and I'm so happy. At the top of our episode, why don't you take a moment, let our lovely listeners at home know about what we are playing this week, as well as anything else you might want them to know about.
I will do it. So we're going to be playing Desperation, which is a game from Bully Pulpit Games. And it is a role-playing game, sort of a storytelling game about dying badly in the 19th century. So it comes with two separate tales that are both pretty replayable. One of them is about a blizzard in 1888, and the other one is about a shipwreck in the same time. And we're going to be playing the Isabel, which is the shipwreck one. And I love this game. I'm so excited to share it with you and your listeners. I understand that you've played Dead House already, but this will be something a little bit different, and I think super exciting for you too, Jeff.
I'm so excited. Because Dead House, like, was genuinely a really special experience. Like, it Desperation being a little bit of like a different approach to, the storytelling game experience. Structurally, the experience of like, rather than making decisions for characters, having a decision and going like, this is the person that I think would choose this. It's one of those very small, very subtle, like, perspective changes that like radically alters the way that you like engage with the story. And so like, that was thrilling. Watching the tension slowly rattle up and consume the community that we created it feels weird to say a joy. Like, that feels like a weird thing to say, but it was an absolute joy. And so like, and adding to that, I was talking about this with a friend. Setting weird horror stories and mysteries on a boat, that's my jam. I'm all about like weird stuff happens on a boat. So let me ask you, like, what's got you particularly excited about the game today? Like, what is it about Desperation that really, gets your wheels going? What is it that you are excited about? What are you bringing to the table today?
Man, that's a big question. So the things I love particularly about the Isabel are that you get that sort of isolation, which is a really great way to increase tension and sort of leverage dread, right? Where we know that we're not getting out of this. Nobody's coming to rescue us. We're going to rescue ourselves, or it's not going to happen. So that is I think that's a beautiful way to position a really scary story. This is a true story, as is Dead House. Like, these things actually kind of happened, and obviously I embellished them. But like, the names of these people that we're going to be encountering, they're real people. They were the people who were on this boat. And this boat, the things that happened to it really did happen to it. So that's exciting to me because I fucking love history. I always have. And I think it's so fascinating, and that you can tell such good stories that are sort of predicated on a morsel of truth that just make them more exciting, more interesting, more horrible in this case.
How did I miss that part of it when we originally... I somehow completely missed the true story aspect of these, and like, my excitement somehow just jumped up 3 notches because I'm like thinking back over Dead House and I'm like, wow, like, the added real history there, just like, damn, okay, like,
Neola is a real town and it's not there anymore.
That's incredible.
Yep.
I'm so excited.
And similarly, like, so I wrote Dead House first, and then when I wanted to write a companion for it that was going to be both thematically and maybe structurally a companion, and I was like, oh, a shipwreck. Where can I set a shipwreck? And then it was like, I did a deep dive into West Coast shipwrecks in 1888, and this one just popped out for reasons that will become glaringly obvious very soon.
I'm so excited. I think I really just want to dive right in because I'm absolutely stoked. So we have in front of us some decks of cards. We're going to use those decks of cards to build a ship map, lay that out with the crew of the Isabel, and then we are going to play through the voyage, through which we have 3 phases: a whole gale, in boats, and hell. Love that hell is a consistent deck in the game. Always great to just see that as a looming element, and I'm so stoked. But first we have to build the ship, which means we need to take turns drawing cards from the deck and laying out the location. Those cards may be played out of order, but we're going to watch the map of the ship emerge. I'm going to go ahead and draw the first card here.
Yeah, please do.
This is the 4 deck, dominated by the hatch over the ship's hold, currently stuffed to bursting with salted cod. This is where the business of sailing is done. This is placed between the cabins and the bow. So we'll flip that card back over and we'll place that here. This is where we are storing our salted cod for the journey.
Awesome. Good. All right. So I have drawn the boat deck, and I'm trying to remember how to enlarge this.
If you just click it, and then you should see the little expand option, or the little like size options. I can pull that up for you.
Oh, thank you. This is the boat deck. An open area at the rear of the Isabel where the business of fishing is done. The dories are stacked like pancakes, upended on the taffrail here. Looking forward past the wheelhouse, there's a magnificent view of the spread of 2 gaff-rigged sails. And this is at the rear of the Isabel, next to the cabins.
These are the berths, where the mates sleep in cupboard-like rooms, and it is hammocks for everyone else. The various lockers, chain, sail, forepeak, are wedged in wherever there's room. The cook, less than Koff, prepares meals here which are consumed with gratitude or trepidation. We are going to place this at the bow of the Isabel next to the foredeck.
The cabins. These cabins for the master and his passengers are compact, tidy, and, save for the permanent and unavoidable smell of fish that permeates every corner of the Isabel, quite pleasant.
Great. Smell is an underrated, sensory descriptor that I feel like does not get used enough in any kind of storytelling experience.
I agree. And Jeff, just imagine as we play this game at all times,
the smell of fish is everywhere. Like it's so. I've spent a lot of time in my life. My dad is a gigantic sailor, or like a gigantic sailing fishing enthusiast, and so I've spent so much time like on boats, and so that fish smell, that mix of like fish and salt it's so prevalent on my mind as I sit and think about this as we draw these cards.
That is very good. Yes, keep that in mind.
So we've got our 4 locations. Do we put out the dories now? We put those out in play later, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, like if we were playing at a table, I would pile those behind the boat deck. But you've got them off to the side here. It's fine. It's fine.
And I will do exactly that for now. We'll get those piled up here. So we've got the 4 dories piled up behind the boat deck, and which means that we've got our picture of our boat. And now it is time to, I'm going to give this a little bit more space since we're going to be putting a bunch of people on these cards.
We are. And for your listeners, if you don't know what a dory is, it's a open, small boat, like a rowboat.
So let's bring out our people. We've got our people deck shuffled. Let me just do one. And let's start drawing cards off of here. I have drawn the first card. I have drawn Portugal. My name is Ernesto Batista Macabalang. I am not Portuguese. I am also not a man who catalogs his indignities. I have been on the Isabel since she was christened, and she has sadly been neglected of late, and I think this will be my last jaunt aboard the old girl. I am experienced but fragile. Just place this card next to the bow card and speak Portugal's truth. I'm really leaning on I'm not a man who catalogs my indignities. Portugal keeps to himself. Portugal wants Portugal's business is Portugal's business, and he's not in the business of telling you what's going on with him. There's a lot going on with him under the surface. You know, he's a fragile person. He's got a lot of emotions. He feels things very strongly. But that's for him to deal with. Like, you deal with your own stuff. Like, this is, there is enough things going on this boat that he does not need you prying into his business. That is for him and his journal and no one else.
The fact that he's been here since the boat was christened also means that he is like the most experienced person on this boat with this boat, right? There might be better sailors. There might be people who've been around the ocean more, but like, he knows the Isabel.
Yeah.
Intimately.
And that coupled with I don't want to talk, the idea that there is a person on this boat that has been here ever since it was christened, and he's not in the business of telling you anything about himself is very that's a very fun, it's very fun contrast, or a very fun friction there that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, me too. I'm almost imagining that he kind of haunts the Isabel, right?
That's a very good way to put it. It's a very good way to put it.
All right, I've drawn Kenneth. Oh, poor Kenneth. I love all these people, Jeff. I love them so much. I've never been out of sight of land before, and it thrills me. Here I am, the son of a tar boiler, on a grand schooner to Alaska. I'm excitable, but unsophisticated.
Oh no!
And we're gonna put him near the foredeck because he's a working sailor. But Kenneth is, not sophisticated. I think that if this is your first voyage and you're, on a schooner going fishing in Alaska, you are probably being taken advantage of.
Sure,
And
yeah.
the ways in which he's being taken advantage of, I don't think we need to know yet. But I think that he doesn't know the whole score, and that he's maybe working harder than he has to, not getting as much as he deserves. Maybe there's other ways that he's being manipulated, but
Love
just
that.
a naive dummy.
A little
Wrong
bit of a
place, wrong
mark.
time.
A little bit of a mark.
Yep.
Good. I've drawn Gordon.
Oh, Gordon.
The universal truth of human nature is that we are all craven, mendacious fools. So it is best not to form too strong an attachment in close quarters. I will keep my peace and drink my own whiskey. I am competent, but perpetually drunk. Place this next to the bow card and speak Gordon's truth.
Oh, Gordon.
Oh, Gordon. I think Gordon, it's funny that they're both on the bow, because I think Gordon and Portugal are, in their own distinct way, the closest friends that maybe exist on this ship. In a sense of, I don't talk about you, you don't talk about me. We sit, we drink, we play cards, and we leave each other alone outside of that. There's especially compared to someone like Kenneth's excitement and sort of like enthusiasm. There's a sense here of I'm here to do a job. You and me are in this together, and we're not talking about what that means.
And I could easily see like Kenneth pulling up a stool to their card game, right?
Yep.
And then it's just he's not reading the room.
There's no vibe reading going on at all.
No. I've taken Ann Nickerson. The deal I made with my mother was that she could send me to whatever blue stocking finishing school she wanted if I could spend the summer aboard the Isabel with my father. She agreed and chose Miss Brackett's school in New York City, which I shall hate. I am enthusiastic, but sheltered. Ann Nickerson. So she's going to a finishing school. She's an older teen. She probably has a higher opinion of her worldliness than is warranted. And she is on a summer of grand adventure with her father, who is the captain of this ship. So a sea captain's daughter, on board with a bunch of rapscallions and roughnecks. And I think Anne probably is holding her own with this crew, that they treat her with respect and deference, but she wants to be in the mix. This is her last chance at freedom before she has to, go back to civilization and put on the stuff that women have to wear in 1888. So she's making the most of it.
I like that a lot. I really like that. I have drawn Harris. I would be anywhere else if I had my druthers, but like the cogs in a wheel, I require the money this trip will bring to realize my further ambitions. Laugh if you must, but I wish to be an actor. So it's fish heads for me, 4 months aboard this leaky tub. I am ambitious, but cynical. Place this card next to the bow and speak Harris's truth. With how you described Anne just now, I think Anne and Harris butt heads a lot. Anne wants nothing more than to be like on this ship, taken seriously in the mix of things. Harris, wants nothing more than to like never see this boat again the second that we hit shore. And I think that like there's a real tension there of almost and sometimes like elbowing Harris out of responsibilities, and Harris kind of like allowing it to happen, except in as much as it like impacts his possible continued employment on the boat. Like there's a clear butting of heads of like he has this status and wants this status, and in some level he would give so much to not be in the spot that he's in. All right, so you've got David. I accidentally drew this for you. But you've got David Towns.
Yeah, let's learn about David Towns. My wife Lilas is a genius who positively burns with the light of the Lord, and it is my role in this life to assist her in her ministry. I myself am nothing, but Lilas has been guided by the hand of God, and I will in every way ease her path, even if it takes us to the frightful backwaters of Alaska. I am clever but demanding. David Towns. So here's a guy. This is like the fact that he sort of reads like a milk toast, but then at the end he's clever but demanding. So that strikes me as someone who's got some hidden depth to him. Probably demanding in the sense that he wants comfort and respect for himself and his wife on this ship. Like making it as easy a voyage as possible, which means that all the crew have to work harder to keep them happy. And clever. I don't know. I think we're going to find out how he's clever.
Yeah, I like that. Now let's meet his wife, Lilas. Lilas, I have been called to this work to bring the teachings of Jesus to those who toil in this forbidding wilderness. And my husband David will build my church in Sandpoint on Popov Island among the Alatic and Russians and the fishermen. I am passionate but presumptuous, and we will place this next to the cabins and speak Lilas's truth.
Can I just comment on the art here? I love it so much.
The art is so gorgeous.
This is woodcut art by Brennan Reese, and like it really communicates a lot to characters that I fear your listeners will be missing. So like Lilas is
we're gonna take this map. We're gonna take the screenshot of the map and make it the episode art so that you can kind of take in all of this, because I think that like you gain so much from just seeing all of this. And yeah, the woodcut art is so. It's breathtaking, and it really does like put you in that time and space and like that foreboding nature.
Yes,
it's good. It's real good.
Tell us about Lilas.
There's a similarity that I don't think either person would ever want to admit between Lilas and Harris. There is a there is a joy in performance that the two of them that Lilas dare not admit and Harris dare not call to attention, I will say. Like, Lilas, in preaching and in the sort of speaking of the gospel, Lilas embraces the theatricality of that. And like that comes across kind of whenever she sort of dips into sort of the word, as she is prone to calling it. Like she dips into it, and like even unbeknownst to her, she like the body language leans into it, and her hands start to move. And I think Harris, as a would-be actor, is very quick to notice this. But neither one will ever admit that like there is a joy that comes from that kind of stage performance, because Lilas would find it insulting and Harris would find it demeaning to his art.
Oh my God. That's fantastic. All right. I'm drawing Holmes. Oh, I love Holmes so much. We are not going to harm Holmes. I just know it. I'm a simpleton, but my heart is as sweet as candy, and I'm glad to work hard among friends. For those that laugh at my infirmity, let God judge them. I am likable but careless.
Oh no, I've known Holmes for 30 seconds.
I know.
If anything happened to him.
I know. I will fight you. So Holmes is, he's a little slow, but sometimes that's fine. Like he's found the right place for himself. Mm-hmm. He's found a place where he can be among friends. He can work hard. He knows his job really well. And his job is fish, there's not a lot of complexity to his world, and complexity is his downfall. So he is in a really good place. I think Holmes is a pretty happy guy. He's accepted by the crew, most of the crew, probably not all. And he can do his work, and that's Holmes.
Love right? That. Yeah, and there's something to when you find that thing and you're like, look, this is the job that I love. It's not, it gives me what I need, and like to find joy in that is like a genuinely beautiful thing, and nothing bad will ever happen to Holmes. Mark my goddamn words. I have drawn Brown. Brown, as second mate, it falls to me to manage the business affairs of this accursed scow, and our business is fish. So I do the same work of all the others, and I count cod tongues, and I keep a tidy receipt. I am fair, but harsh. Place Brown on the foredeck and speak Brown's truth.
Second mate Brown.
Brown, in another lifetime, in another world with a different set of opportunities, Brown would be rich beyond belief and utterly without a soul, which is to say Brown would be on Wall Street in the 1980s. Brown
Oh God. Oh, I hate him so much.
He is prone to hustle. Like he is a numbers guy. He is a hustler. He is an aggressive bookkeeper. Like there is a world where he is alive in New York in 1980s, and he is running stock numbers every day. Like he gets in a very similar way that Holmes finds like joy in catching fish, cleaning fish, storing fish. The similarity there is they both find intense joy in that work. But for Brown, that work is like, I am monitoring numbers. I am projecting what we can expect to make and profit margins. And like the business half of this is the thing that Brown like thrives in. And it's the second that he has to get his hands dirty where Brown wishes he was dead.
That's so good. Jeff, I so appreciate you creating parallels between these characters. That's really good. That's gonna make this game so much sweeter.
Yeah, there's some magic. Let me zoom this in for you. We've got Captain Nickerson.
Captain Nickerson. All right. I'm the master of the Isabel, and I make my money when we are a happy crew and heavy with fish. On this journey, against my better judgment, I have brought my daughter Anne. She wanted to see the world, and this is my part of it. And the fresh air at least will do her good. I am calm, but troubled.
Which goes next to the cabins.
Yeah. Oh, man. So Captain Nickerson, we have heard from a couple of these people. I remember Portugal in particular was saying, like, the boat's not in the best of shape. The boat is leaking a little bit. That's what I've heard from some of these people. And I think Captain Nickerson knows it, and he knows he's kind of rolling the dice a little bit, that the Isabel's not in the shape that she should be, but, one last run, and then we'll get her patched up. So he's a little nervous about that. And of course, he's concerned about his daughter. People fall off the side of boats. She's an energetic young woman. Like, there's just a lot that could happen here. That she could get her leg crushed underneath a sail mast or whatever. So he's sincerely troubled, but seems like a good guy.
Love this. Okay. We have Merkuliev. I am first mate in Alutik. The Shumigans are home to me, and I know them well, but I left on a ship once, and now I don't belong there anymore. I belong in San Francisco. I am steady, but lonely.
Just to clarify, he doesn't belong in the islands any more than he belongs in San Francisco.
Oh, got it. I don't belong there any more than I belong in San Francisco. I am steady, but lonely. We're going to place this on the boat deck and then speak Merkuliev's truth.
So this guy's an Alaska native who doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere.
Yeah. And we're putting this on the boat deck. I think that there is I'm undercutting something that we established a little bit ago, because I think that we've learned this. There's another one of those parallels that has emerged here for me, is that like Portugal keeps to himself and doesn't talk about his business to anyone except Merkuliev. Like Perfect. There is I think there is maybe it's not even a frequent thing. Maybe it was one night where the two of them were drinking. It was too late. Too many shots had been handed back and forth, and they just let it rip. Like it was a cry session between the two of them that like neither of them really talk about now. It's not really a thing that like, but like there's kind of a quiet acknowledgement of like, there is one person who has felt things as painful as I have, and like they had this shared moment between them, and like I think that there's like a respect there that goes unspoken very specifically.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's great.
And now we have Lestenkov.
I've drawn Lestenkov, and look at him.
This. Look at this. Look at this guy of all time.
Lestenkov. Every morning I'm up at 3 baking bread, as much to mask the stench of bilge water and kerosene as to feed the crew and passengers. I hate cod, but I love my job and I love men. I'm cheerful, but manipulative. All right, then. Here's Lestenkov. He's the ship's cook. Cheerful but manipulative. So Lestenkov has a currency, right? Lestenkov is the cook. He controls the food. And I think that makes him somebody that people need to respect, treat with deference, and, be fearful of in some ways. I think he has a position of power on the ship, even though he doesn't do any hard physical labor. He's not out running the ship. He's not out catching fish, but like he's the eminence grise on this boat.
Yeah.
And maybe people hate him.
Sure. He's not getting his hands. I imagine Harris probably hates him at the very least. Like he's not getting Harris is having to get his hands dirty and do this miserable work and like and like there's definitely like a resentment I think almost has to be there. And so that is let me count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. That is all of our people. So we have met our crew, which means now it is time to embark on our voyage.
Love it.
So when that happens, we are gonna draw a card from the full gale deck. So a whole gale. So we've got a card here. Let me shuffle. And we've removed a couple cards from this deck, so there are a few things that we don't know, but what won't come up. But I will. Would you like to draw the first card, or should I?
I'll do it. Oh,
Go ahead.
Something else. Brown probably hates Lestenkov too, because Brown is all about fairness, and Lestenkov is like working the angles. Sure, absolutely. Should we explain how this part of the game works to people? Okay, all right. I'm going to do that then. So we've got a bunch of cards in front of us. The rest of the game is we've got 3 decks. We've got a whole gale, in boats, and hell. And each one is, once we play through them, we'll have cards in between to tell us the thing that happens next. What's going to happen is we're going to draw a card that has a small bit of fiction on it, like a small in-character observation about something that has happened on the voyage of the Isabel. We are going to quietly read this. Listener, you will not hear us quietly read it because I am a very good editor. We're going to quietly read it. We're going to decide which character is speaking these words. We're going to announce that, read the card, and then speak our truth, which is add a little bit of specific character detail to kind of flesh out what is happening on the ship at each moment. Okay, so I've drawn a card. The card is titled My Friend, and this is absolutely Kenneth. You just never know with people. I made a lifelong friend before the Isabel had cleared the Farallons, and we remain inseparable despite our obvious differences. On a ship like this, it's good to have a friend. I try to be a good one. And if you remember, Kenneth is our naive first voyage optimist, and he has become best friends with Holmes, our kind of slow hard worker. And I think that's because, like, as the new guy, everybody gives Kenneth shit, but Holmes never does. Holmes is friendly. He was welcoming, treats him as an equal, literally showed him the ropes, and has just been kind to him. And the two just became besties and have been absolute best friends. They eat together. They sleep in the same hammock. They're just inseparable friends. I adore that. That's fantastic. I'm deeply sad because I know that I can imagine. I don't know if this is going to go well. So yeah, there's such a comfortable coworker element of like somebody who wants to throw themselves at the job and somebody that like is like, this job is my everything. Like there's a genuine sense of like mentorship going on there. And maybe in both directions. Like Kenneth can probably help Holmes puzzle through things that are hard for him. So I love that. I'm going to say the card that I've drawn here is a dream. And I think this is Portugal. I dreamed I was lost in the fog on a dory, alone on the great ocean. I blew my tinny foghorn, but there was no reply. The sea was like glass. It was endless. I awoke in a considerable sweat, and to be perfectly honest, I'm glad we're in heavy weather. I am spooked by those little boats. It is becoming harder and harder for Portugal, as somebody that has been on this boat for longer than anyone, to ignore the condition of the boat itself.
it is getting harder and harder to like ignore the the little tiny cracks all through the ship. Like it is getting harder and harder to focus on the work, and like it's he is not stopped sleeping altogether, but certainly like more, his sleep is getting more restless by the night, because it's just every little detail is a little bit more unnerving.
Oh no. And he would know, right? If Portugal's worried about it, it's a problem. Yeah. I like that. All right. So the card I drew is the cod business. And I think this is I'm going to paint a little scene for this, because it's Brown that's saying this 100%, but he's telling it to Ann Nickerson, and they're down in the hold, and this work is being done as Brown is talking. You catch a fish, you cut out his tongue. That's as good as money. The master counts your tongues. You get $30 for every 1,000 codfish. Dress the cod you've caught, form a line. The header lops off the head, the splitter opens the fish, and the salter, well, salts it and throws it in the hold. You work together, you keep your own tongues. And Anne is like taking notes. She's absorbing every detail of this. And it is a gruesome, gruesome business.
I kind of like, I kind of imagine that Brown maybe likes having Anne around, like, as somebody that is excited to, like, in a different way than Kenneth, who is like very excited to just like have work and do the work. Like, Brown gets to kind of be the boss a little bit, is the vibe I get. And like this moment, this scene, there's a sense of Brown kind of like, the vibe I get, and tell me how you're feeling about this, is like Brown almost relishing being, the expert, the voice of authority, and getting 100%. To kind of like demonstrate his mastery over this process.
Yep. And I'm sure as he's saying that, the others are like rolling their eyes.
I have drawn the card Worst Days, and I think there's a particular detail on here that I think this is Merculief. We are somewhere off a Sheridan Point on Unga Island in this miserable gale, and the Isabel is taken on water. I was tasked with wrapping our bow in a sail to stem the flow, and it worked until we stopped making headway. Now the pumps cannot keep pace, and this ship is doomed. I think there is, obviously there's like the natural crisis that is unfolding here, right? Like there is the immediate danger of like recognizing the ship is taking on water and like the ship is failing. But I think for Merculief in particular, like noting the places that are passing by, I think Merculief like has a very acute awareness of the places that you pass and the communities or the towns or the villages or the cities that are on those, because he has been separated for so long that there is kind of a sense of like as somebody that moved around a lot as a kid, like there is a very acute feeling that I remember very clearly of like looking at places and wondering what it felt like to belong there. And so I think like Merculief had like, and being on a boat and passing by so many places, like there is that sense of like he is noting like we're passing by this point, we're passing by this island. Here are the cities and villages that we're passing, and like it's a comfort, but it's a sad comfort at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, his dad took him hunting on Unga Island, right? Mm-hmm. Like he knows these places. He can tell them by sight. Yeah, that's super sad. Perfect. That's a perfect choice for that card, right? Oh shit. Okay. All right.
I love that laugh. I'm excited to hear what caused that laugh. That was
This is great. I drew a card called A Liar, and there are lots of people that you could. This is one of the cards that's really gonna define a character, and it could be positioned with a lot of different people. But I am definitely giving this to David Towns.
I looked at David Towns as you were starting to say that. I was like, this is a David Towns-esque card.
Yes, it is. But like, imagine if I had given it to like Lestenkov, right?
Or
like,
the captain. All kinds of ways like, there's so many.
Right,
yeah.
But let's hear what David has to say. There's nothing worse among a small crew than the outrageous turpitude of the moral coward and the teller of lies. Someone has been telling lies about me, very egregious ones too, and I know who it is, and they will answer smartly for their careless words. So, yeah, like...
David, you good?
Yeah, right. Everything okay? Everything okay, buddy? Like, what have they been saying behind your back? And how are you presenting that to Captain Nickerson? And what are you demanding the captain do? Like, the captain's a busy guy. We're working our way through this bad storm. The ship's kind of leaking. And then David Towns is like, I need your attention immediately. Your crew have been spreading pernicious lies about me. They've been saying foul things about me, and it is completely unacceptable. What are you going to do about it? And, what Captain Nickerson is going to do about it is nothing.
Sure. That's not his business. Like, that's not my concern.
Yeah, this is some amateur hour Bush League nonsense, and he just does not have time for it. And I think that's what happens. I think he's like, Mr. Towns, go below. This is not the time or place for this. Handle your own affairs. And a fire starts burning in David Towns from that moment.
That's wonderful. I love that. I love that we still don't know who is spreading lies, if they are actually spreading lies. And the fact that there's a schism immediately between David and the captain as a result of that is chef's kiss.
Yes.
The titles on the cards are great. And the fact that you flip a card and it just says ghosts, here we fucking go. I think this is Ann Nickerson.
Oh no.
And I'm going to say all of this, and my truth, I think, is going to color this in a specific way. I've heard the Isabel was unmasted in a tempest back in 85, and her crew washed away, and the ghost ship was towed to port and repaired. I feel in my bones she intends to wash us away too. There is death about her. And I think that we see this. The scene that we see this being said this is Ann Nickerson writing in a journal.
Perfect, yes.
And the truth that we see is the biggest smile that Anne has smiled in this entire... Like this is for just, for everything that is said on that card, this is Anne... this is a thrill, the feeling of like, I heard rumor that this ship is cursed, that people were killed on it. Theoretically, that means that Portugal lived through whatever this was. Like, Anne has heard these rumors and has heard all of the speculation from Portugal and Merculief, and like, Anne is living in this moment of like, I might not just like, this might not just be time on a boat. This might be a cursed voyage on a hell ship. And like, I am alive right now.
That's so good. And like, she's 17, right?
Yeah.
Like she's nothing bad is going to happen to her. She's immortal.
Yeah.
And her dad's here to take care of her. It's fine.
There's no context for what any of this means. This is just, you told a kid that there's a dead body in the woods, and they're like, well, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
And there's a couple of people who I could easily be like, well, just so there's an old story. Like Harris would totally tell her that. Maybe even Brown to just impress her. Like, oh, that's so good. That's very good.
I love that.
Oh, shit.
Great.
Oh, this is great. Okay. Yeah, this is our man Portugal. The card's called Better Days. And this is 100% some Portugal talk. I sailed with old Captain Turner aboard the Porpoise when these fisheries were a novelty 20 years ago. We took 36,000 fish in 2 weeks. Of course, now I'm among a less grand class of people, weak, timid people who go pale at a little weather. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Scratch that. Future Jeff, scratch that. I misread this card. That's not Portugal. This is Gordon, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, the card I drew is Better Days, and this is definitely Mr. Gordon. I sailed with old Captain Turner aboard the Porpoise when these fisheries were a novelty 20 years ago. We took 36,000 fish in 2 weeks. Of course, now I'm among a less grand. Of course, now I'm among a less grand class of people, weak and timid people who go pale at a little weather. The ship is sound, and I'm not going to wet myself over some rough seas. So, yeah, Gordon, a salty old mariner who is really saying these things to comfort himself. This is self-soothing because shit's going down, right? I don't think he believes what he's saying.
And I almost imagine him saying this saying this over poker with Portugal, just kind of saying it, and maybe in doing so, violating a little bit of their poker truce of we don't talk about anything, we play poker.
Oh yeah, and that's a beautiful moment because he breaks that. It's kind of like breaking that trust, which shows how scared he is. This is how he shows how scared he is.
This is Lilas.
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. That's so good. Perfect.
And this is the Scotch dumplings. Tonight we dined on what are called Scotch dumplings, which are cod stomachs filled with cod livers and cornmeal. Cod, cod, cod. We left San Francisco with 5 kegs of beef on board, but somehow that was gnawed through before we reached the Shemagans. Lord, am I sick of cod. This was supposed to be something more, not glamorous, because this ship was never going to be glamorous, but God wasn't supposed to do this to Lilas.
Right, right.
This is the Lord is testing Lilas and is doing it through the salty smell, the salt and fish smell and cod and I think Lilas, in true fashion, or in true wealthy preacher fashion, has never really gone through trials on this level, and the second that it's happened has just defaulted to this sucks. I hate this. I wasn't supposed to go through this.
I love that. Yep. Maybe she's starting to realize what God has in mind for her.
Yep.
Oh boy. Okay, a point of interest. This is Captain Nickerson.
Sure, absolutely is.
I don't want to cause a panic, but the Isabel is a bad ship, poorly cared for and overloaded, and we will be very lucky if she makes port. The deadlights are secured and everyone will do their part, and yet I fear the Isabel will slip away beneath us. And soon. Yeah, Nickerson's keeping this one to himself. There are meaningful glances with Portugal and Merkuliev, probably Gordon, the people who are really competent. But he's dead worried. He is dead worried about what's happening.
I think the operative thing to me is I don't want to cause a panic. It's all fine. Everything's great. Ship is not good.
Yep.
And this is our final card of a whole gale. This is our 10th card, our final card of this section. This is the most Harris card that has ever been flipped. This is baiting the hook. Sailors spend their time baiting hooks the size of their hands, 1,600 of them to a line. They bait them with whatever fry they can scoop up, squid, capelin, and it is a filthy business for filthy men. I could never love this life, but no one can deny the money is good. This is not one moment of Harris saying this. This is a myriad. I think every person on the crew, every one of these passengers has heard Harris say this, some variation of this, almost verbatim. This is, you would believe it was a scripted monologue that he is rehearsing with how often he has said all of these things in some variation.
Maybe it's a case where Harris always ends his endless complaints with, but the money's good.
Yeah.
To the point where people can mouth it with him when he says it.
You know that he's done complaining when you hear, but the money is good. And there's just kind of a you hear, I think you hear a few of the older timers mutter it under their breath, and then Kenneth and Holmes kind of chuckle as they start to pick up on like on like the fact that they're saying this to kind of mock Harris for his constant complaining.
Love it. Yep.
All right,
that is great.
Let's get rid of these cards.
So we're done with a whole gale. I wonder what's going to happen next.
We'll find out. Remove these cards. We'll hide this deck.
I like a lot of these people. We've created some people here that are sympathetic, that are interesting, that I want to succeed, and a couple of real bastards. So yeah, that's great.
Let's see what happens to them in this moment. We're abandoning ship.
Oh wow. Okay. So abandoned ship. This is a card that always comes between a whole gale and in boats.
The gale turns to storm, and the Isabel is sinking. We choose someone to lash themselves to the wheel and allow safe escape for the rest. Send them to their deep. Remove the 4 Isabel ship cards, spread them out, and divide the remaining survivors unevenly among the 4 dories as they hastily abandon ship.
Oh, wow. So we have a couple things to do here. First of all, someone is immediately going to die.
Yep, somebody's going to die.
Yep, send them to the deep means they're gone. So someone is going to allow everybody else to survive this by lashing themselves to the wheel. And that's the first thing we have to decide. Who would do that?
Who does that?
So the obvious choice is Captain Nickerson, but I don't think he does it.
I don't think he does it.
Protect his daughter.
I think he's protecting his daughter, and I think also, like, he is, I think, protecting his daughter, and by extension, like, the rest of the crew. I have 2 people who I think could do it.
Yeah. Well, who are your top candidates? Because I've got a great one, too.
Merculief and Portugal are the 2 people that immediately come to mind.
Yes, I think either one of them would do it. But there's also some people on this ship that are suggestible and would take orders.
Sure.
And if you said, hold this wheel, I'll be right back, would do it.
Oh my God, is it Kenneth?
I mean, that's kind of where I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, is this a shitty moment, or is this a moment of quiet heroism, is the question.
I mean...
Okay, you know what? I'm going to just say it's a shitty moment.
I think it's a shitty moment.
Nickerson knows he can't lose Portugal or Merkuliev. He
That's
needs
true.
them in those boats. We're in the middle of a fucking storm in the North Pacific. He needs his best people in boats, and Kenneth is not his best people.
In fact, I'm gonna hit the classic Jeff Stormer and make it a little bit of both. I think he tells this to Kenneth, but Kenneth is not the one who ultimately does it.
Oh no.
Because I think Kenneth does it initially. Like, Kenneth starts to like grab the wheel and starts to like steady it. And I think there's a moment of clarity, and Holmes is like, "Hey, get on a boat." Like, they're like you need to get on a boat. Like, it's an acknowledgement of I'm not going to let them be cruel to you because you were kind to me. So like, this is a way that we can look out for each other. And I know that it means that it means I'm not going to make it out of this, but like, I can give this to you so that you can survive when everyone else is going to cast you to death. Like, I think there's a very honest, like they are trying to kill you kind of moment of like, and I think Holmes takes the wheel and goes to the deep.
That's great. And and Kenneth was like totally prepared to like stay with him, and Portugal just grabs him and throws him in a boat.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we need to assign these people unevenly to these 4 boats.
Yeah.
So my thinking is the captain's going to be in one. He's going to put Merkuliev in one and Portugal in one because they're his most competent people.
Yep.
Right. So spread them out. And then I don't know.
We said Portugal has grabbed Kenneth, so I feel like Kenneth is on Dory 3 with Portugal.
Okay.
I also think probably Captain has grabbed Anne and dragged her onto Dory 1 here with Captain.
Okay.
That feels right. Like if we're just grabbing people and dragging them, that feels correct.
Yes. Yes. Let's see. Who else have we got here? The Townses need to go with somebody competent. They're probably going to want to be with the captain. but I think the captain is going to put them in Dory 2 with Merkuliev.
I think that feels right.
Yeah. And they're not going to be separated.
No, they're together. They refuse to be separated.
Gordon can man a boat. Gordon's
competent. Managing in third. I think that like I'm gonna say Listenkopf specifically like jumps onto the boat with the captain.
Okay.
Because this is his best shot at surviving.
Yeah. So there's 3 people in that boat. There's 2 people in Dory 2, 2 people in Dory 3, and 1 person in Dory 4.
I think we got 3 people in 3 people in 2.
Yeah, these need to be uneven, and we still have Harris and Brown to put in a boat.
I'm thinking.
And obviously they're not going to be completely uneven, but we can't have them all have 4 people in them or whatever.
I think I'm going to make a real shitty moment, and I'm going to change one of the things that we've got laid out here.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh no. Harris is alone on Dory 4.
Fuck
Harris has stolen Dory 4. Like by the time people start loading ships and start abandoning ship, Dory 4 is gone. Harris has taken it by himself because is great. I'm looking out for number 1.
Yes, good. Your instincts are perfect there. That's great.
I think that Gordon is going to be on Dory 3. Like, I think Gordon, like, finds Portugal as his most trusted friend. And I think Brown, out of a misguided sense of loyalty, overloads Dory number 1 and, like, is insisting on, like, I am joining the captain.
That's perfect. Okay.
So here are our boats.
And we should probably read about our boats now, right?
Yeah. We just arrange these and get these out of the way. I don't want to get...
Yeah, that's gone. We can get rid of the actual ship.
Yeah, get rid of these tiles, but I want to keep this one tile and Holmes so that we know.
Okay, that's the deep in that corner. Okay. All right. So why don't you flip Dory 1 and read it?
All right. Flip Dory 1. Yep. Here we go. And grab that. This Dory has a spirit sail rig and can positively fly with the wind. Rigged for day fishing, it has no provisions or useful equipment. Great.
Nice. Dory 2. Dory 2 is the one with Merkuliev, Lilas, and David Towns.
And I'll pull that into the clear area. There we go.
The Dory is in terrible repair and will immediately begin taking on water when battered by confused seas. It has no provisions, no sail, and 1 useless oar. It is a death trap.
Great. Phenomenal. Fantastic. We love to hear this.
Yes. It's good news. Good news.
Flip that, put that there.
Man, I was hoping that Harris would get that one, but oh well.
I can't wait to learn about the Dory that Harris has specifically stolen. Dory number 3. Someone has taken good care of this Dory. There's a butt full of fresh water and a tin of biscuits and a fishing line and 3 oars. It is squared away and could keep 2 people comfortable on a journey. And look, there's 3.
Awkward. It's Gordon, Portugal, and Kenneth in Dory 3.
And tell me about Dory number 4.
Oh, yeah. This old Dory would be perfectly acceptable in fishing weather, but this is not fishing weather. When heavy seas pound her, she will lose her centerboard and become uncontrollable. Anyone on board will be at the mercy of the wind and the current.
Oh, great. Because I'm certain that Harris is really well equipped to deal with the wind and the current.
It's not a good scene.
All right. So now we flip our boats, and I'll draw the first boats card.
All right. We are in boats.
This is the card is labeled my foot, and this is Portugal.
Oh no.
In the chaos, a hogshead filled with salt broke free and crushed my foot. I didn't even notice, so desperate was our escape. Only now has it become obvious, when the dull pain seeming to rise in pitch and intensity with each roll of this accursed Dory, I will probably lose it. This happened while he was rescuing Kenneth. Like,
yes, of course.
Had he not gone back and done the right thing and grabbed Kenneth, like, he would have been fine. And like, there is maybe like there's maybe in his very kind of emotional in his head way, like there's some resentment fostering there's some like second guessing, there's some question of whether or not it was all worth it. But I don't think Portugal would say a word of that to anyone on the boat.
All right. I drew a card called Too Soft a Word. Yeah, okay. This is Brown. I think this is Brown. Brown is in Dory 1 with Captain Nickerson, Anne, and Lestenkov. I share this little boat with the principal architect of my ruin, the person whose gross negligence and criminal greed have brought us to this crux. The Isabel was rotten, and I must rub oilskin in cramped quarters with the very source of that rot. Hate is too soft a word. Yeah, Brown's losing it. I think,
yeah,
a
little bit.
Brown's very upset, very frightened, and is blaming the captain for everything. And, to be fair, the captain is responsible for everything, so it kind of is his fault. But Brown is going over the top on this one.
Yeah.
Maybe Brown thinks he would be a better captain at this point.
Okay. This is gonna push things in some real interesting directions. I've drawn the final tattoo, and this is absolutely Merkuliev. This has all been too much. I am done in, exhausted, sodden, and cold. My heart is beating out its final tattoo. When I am gone, I hope I am treated with decency and gentleness. Merkuliev just has given everything he can give to this boat, and just like they fall asleep the first night they're at sea, and when they wake up, the Townses are the only two that wake up. I think that like the job has gone on for too long, which and I think the truth that I want to add here is just really emphasizing that means that the Townses do not have any crew members or support on this boat, and they are alone on this ship together. And like I think there is like I think Merkuliev, like they there is like a long discussion about like how they should approach like paying rights and respects. And I think ultimately like David just pushes the body into the water. Like there is a clear moment, and I don't know if Lilas holds a resentment about that. Like she might, only in that like she believes there is a proper way to do things, but like there is a clear sense of like we don't know if we should be holding on to ritual or just pure pragmatism.
And maybe as he slips away, she rationalizes it and says, "Well, he was probably not a Christian."
Yeah.
Oh God. All right, them alone in a boat is great. I love that. I love that very much. Okay. Oh, Jesus. We're losing some people here. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. All right. This is great. My card's called A Waking Dream. This is Brown. So just as a quick reminder, Brown is in Dory 1 with Captain Nickerson, his daughter Anne, and Lestenkov.
Mm-hmm.
Soaking, salt-encrusted, and freezing, I'm filled with anger. Bobbing helplessly around the North Pacific is bad enough, but I must share my torment with the worst person in the world, an intolerable jackass. I daydream about beating their foolish head and then wake from my dream with a bloody belaying pin in my hand.
Holy shit.
Brown just fucking murdered Captain Nickerson. Like, beat him to death. And he did it in like a fugue state while Anne and Lestenkov were screaming and trying to stop him.
That's terrifying.
So Brown has slipped the chains of reality. Brown is gone, and he's like a murderous lunatic trapped in a boat with these two people. You have so many good choices here.
I know exactly the choice I'm going to make, and it's the funniest possible choice. I've drawn Still Together. Through the fog, an apparition appears, and I quickly realize it's another boat from the Isabel. The feeling of seeing another Dory is indescribable. We are a ragged little flotilla. We cannot raft together, but we can spend a few moments and perhaps adjust our loads. We are still together. It gives me hope. Um, there's a plus and a minus to who is saying this and the choice that he makes at this moment. When Harris abandons his pretty functional good boat for the boat that was openly described as a death trap, simply because there are more people on this boat than mine, he realizes he is out of his depth and makes the tactical decision to climb onto the boat.
He probably has to jump over and swim for it.
He swims for it. He makes the decision and lets his dory sink even before he realizes who is on board, climbs on board, and is now soaking wet, staring in the face of the man he has been spreading gossip about for weeks.
Oh no. Oh no. That's, oh wow. This, I have no words.
This is great. This is real good.
Oh God. Oh wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I know who this is. Yeah, like we're still in a gale, right? The weather is still bad. So in Dory 3, they're fighting hard to just stay upright. And at one point, Gordon, like he's at the taffrail and he's trying to control the tiller, and a wave hits him and he's over the side. This card is the Abyss, and this is Gordon. I'm falling like a shooting star now, but down through the depths, a weightless seraph. And I don't mind. Below me is the great Alaskan cod bank. We took 1 million fish this year alone, more even, but they still seem to form a solid, undulating silver wall below me. The cod part to let me pass on my journey to the abyss. So Gordon falls out of the boat, and he's just gone. And Portugal saw him go, kind of made eye contact with him as he went over the side and realized that maybe this is for the best.
Yeah, there's definitely a moment where, like, there's just such a visible calm with Gordon, and, like, you know, we cut back, like, we see a brief we flash back briefly to that night when they played poker, when Gordon broke the trust and was like, look, we've had a great run. The boat has racked a lot of fish and made a lot of money, and things have been good, and there's kind of a sense of, like, this is always how it was going to end. Yep. Oh, I know who this is immediately. This is Lestenkoff, and this is a survivor. And here is a rat, spiky with block grease and evil to look upon, that somehow survived the calamity and made its way onto my dory. I think we shall be friends. I do not need any more enemies. I know that this means a literal rat, but Brown just murdered a man, and Lestenkoff staring at this man who in a fugue state just beat a man to death, and going, I can use this.
Yes.
I can work this angle.
Yes. That is great.
This man will help me survive, I think is the angle here of, like, Lestenkoff, despite trying to stop Brown from doing the murder, has now looked at this, like, broken, murderous man and gone, like, this is a weapon that I will use to survive by any means necessary. If I need to make a deal, if I need to make some cod, if I need to make some Scotch dumplings to keep this man satiated so that he does not beat me to death, I'll make those deals.
Yep, that's good. And that means things are not looking good in Dory 1 for Anne.
No.
All right. Yeah, okay. This is good. This is Portugal, who is, as far as I can tell, the only competent sailor we have left. This card is my Beckwith. Our fishing boats are Beckwith dories made of sugar pine and fir with oak rails, clinker built, 16 feet in length. They're easy for one person to handle, being very beamy and small. I like this boat, and I can hand reef and steer her with ease. I believe I shall make for Kodiak. And there's a little fillip at the end of that, which is, speak your truth, stay with the flotilla, or depart and go to the deep. Meaning that if you do set off for Kodiak, you're going to never disappear forever. I think Portugal's fine. He's seen the other two dories. They're all more or less together. And he has a sense of responsibility. even though he doesn't know what's happening in the other boats.
I like that.
But he kind of knows at this point that he's in a boat that has supplies for 2 people, and there are 2 people in his boat. He's fine. He's not worried about anything for personally, except his foot, I guess.
He's gonna make it. Portugal, you're gonna be all right, buddy. What's my next card here? Oh, I don't even have to question. Knowing where the last thing that we left off with this story, David Towns is feeling some discomfort. The smallest things cause the blood to boil with rage. A body shifts and there's a grumbling and an annoyed little kick. And then, despite my exhaustion and starvation, I am fully prepared to tear someone's throats out for their outrageous insolence. There's a moment's hesitation and collapse. We will fight again.
There is bad blood in Dory 2, my friend.
Dory 2, David Towns, he knows that it was Harris. He knows he went to the captain. The captain's not around anymore. He followed the laws of the ship. The ship's not around anymore. Yep. I'm going to tear your throat out, Harris.
Yep. A murderous rage. Love it.
Harris is just sweating bullets because he fully knows. He knows that he's been talking shit, and he knows that Towns knows that he's been talking shit.
There is no worse place he could be. This is Anne. The card is called the Death Roll. The vision is seared into my memory. The Isabel, heavy and low, in a death roll. She was broached to windward on her beam ends, and then the sails met the water, then rose again heavy, counter-rolled, and then that was it for the Isabel. It was a magnificent, terrible thing to see. Anne is in shock. She watched her dad die. She doesn't know what her future is going to hold because clearly she's the odd one out in this boat. And she's not going to make a deal with Brown. She's going to get Brown. She's going to get revenge for her father if she can. But she's disassociating, right? It's just so that's like she's imagining writing a journal entry about the end of the end of the Isabel there.
And what I think is interesting is that like she's imagining writing this journal entry, and what is fascinating and maybe even a little bit terrifying in its own right, she is imagining this journal entry, and yet it's still kind of like it flows in the same way that the last journal entry we saw did. Like she's still imagining there's still a kind of an excitement to that description, right? It's magnificent. It's terrible. It's collapsing. There's still this kind of energy to it that I think maybe roiling under the surface a little bit is still a little bit of a thrill to this, that maybe there's a dark side to Anne that we might still see unearthed.
You think?
I think Leston Coffin Brown think that they are in position to have to kill Anne if they have to, but I think that Anne is showing some violence under the surface that I'm excited to see come out.
Well, we've just made landfall.
Would you like to read the card?
Yeah, landfall. Ashore at last. The survivors make landfall and are perfectly safe. Remove the dories and replace them with the 2 shore cards, which are the beach and the Barabara. Place the survivors on the beach or in the Barabara as they might prefer.
Should we read the beach and the Barabara cards?
Yes, we should.
All right. I'll read the beach if you want to read the Barabara.
Sounds good.
That card, zoom that in. The beach. A barren, rocky strand demarked by steep cliffs. The beach faces south into the vast Pacific. The cliffs funnel a stiff breeze at all hours, and there are few signs of life. Some wheeling gulls, some limp ocean weeds. Pure desolation.
Yes.
We'll place this on this corner and then give us the Barabara.
The Barabara. This is an old Alutic house. Dug into the earth, its roof long gone, save for lonely whalebone supports. A dory dragged overhead will serve to keep the rain out, and a driftwood fire will fight the chill. If it has any deficit, it is that it does not survey the ocean.
Okay.
So we've got a little shelter that is a little bit inland, and we've got the beach. And who is going to be where?
I immediately, knowing based on what I was just saying, I think Anne I think Anne is both in dissociation and sort of still captivated by everything, is just like staring out at the sea.
Right. Brown is taking command. Brown is going to go to the shelter and bring the other civilians with him. So David and Lila's towns are going to the whatever shelter we have. Lesnikov is joined at the hip to Brown and will not leave his side.
Yep. I think Portugal is at the beach, because I think Portugal, as like the consummate survivor, is like looking for a way out. Like is looking to figure out how they can get back to anywhere that is safe. And I think, partially indebted because his life was just saved, Kenneth is probably with him.
And if there's a place he can get out of the rain, Harris is going to that. So that would be the Barabara.
That feels right.
That does. And Portugal, he grew up here. He knows this terrain, and he knows that they're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
So like being warm and under a roof is not going to get them saved.
Yeah.
What's going to get them saved is the ocean. So awesome.
All right, well,
gosh, I wonder, is there a whole third chapter to this miserable tale?
There is, actually, which means that we start, let me see what we're labeling. Oh, the Hell deck. Sure, great.
Oh, hell.
Somewhere in the second half of this deck is the final card of our game. For now, I'll flip the first card and we'll just see how things play out.
All right.
Oh, boy.
It's gonna get dark, man. We're gonna lose some people. This is getting dark.
I have to decide who... This is a baptism, and I have to decide who is about to... I think this is spoken from Lilas, absolutely. I think that Lilas watches this happen. Someone takes absolute leave of their senses. I watch as if removed from the scene as they strip off every shred of clothing and immerse themselves in the Pacific surf, raving about being baptized anew. I could have interceded. Actually, I think I know who it is. I know who has made this decision.
You're about to make me very, very angry.
Am I?
It. Yes.
I think Harris snaps.
All right.
I think that it's the weight of it all has just broken, and Harris, like, in a way that I think, like, specifically David is almost mad at Harris, like the weight of having to fight off David verbally and sometimes physically, and like all of the things that have happened to survive. Harris just breaks down. He's been listening to Lilas like deliver gospel on this boat for days, and like has been listening to David wishing death upon him, and finally just like in a delirious state walks into the ocean.
Good,
and Lilas is like, I could have intervened, and David is only mad that he couldn't do it himself.
maybe Lilas was like, you haven't been saved, Harris.
Yeah.
You haven't been baptized. When we find land, we'll baptize you. When we find land, you'll be saved. You'll be a Christian anew.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, God.
Love that.
So like in some ways she kind of murdered him, which is great.
The two of them together broke his spirit and drove him into the ocean.
Yep. Which Lesnikov watched with interest, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, this is our friend Portugal. Well, yeah, Portugal. The card is Regrets. I hear a groan. It is the moaning of the damned in hell. The Isabel had bad seasons in 86 and 87, and her owner neglected her maintenance. The signs were everywhere. She was a leaky ship, and she groaned in misery when worked by contrary seas. She's groaning right now, and it fills my head until I scream. Portugal feels guilty about this. Portugal could have stopped this. Portugal could have said no, and instead a bunch of people are dead, and more are going to die.
Yeah.
This combined with a raging fever and a crushed foot, the writing's on the wall for poor Portugal.
It sure is.
Oh no.
Okay, yeah.
Oh
right.
No. Oh no.
Hey, Brown's not doing so good, and this card is preaching. Someone is preaching now on the topic of Paul and his shipwreck, and it is loathsome to my ears. I cannot bear it. I curse the sound of it. Curse God and all gods. I shake my sore-covered fists at a sky that never darkens. I will die with venom on my broken lips, or I will silence that preacher forever. I I think a little bit, this is, tied into like what we've already established. Lilas is going into the deep. Alm, a little bit comeuppance, a very kind of similar death, I think, to poor Harris. Lestenkopf maybe fed that a little bit. Lestenkopf, was like, if it was like she, it was an already existing resentment and already existing just like a violence, prone to, or disposition to violence, that Lestenkopf, just as Lilas fed Harris's desperation, Lestenkopf fed Brown's resentment, and maybe even like moments later, right? Like maybe it was, it's the same day. Like like Harris is gone and Lilas is gone. Is these two separate fires were just stoked into an inferno.
And Brown still got his belaying pin, which is like a royal scepter. It's covered in blood and hair now. I think David Towns is going to the beach. Just after watching Brown beat his wife to death. Damn.
It just flees in the night. Does not do anything to fight or resist. It just disappears in the night. Shows up on the beach begging for protection.
It's the summer in South Central Alaska. There is no night. Okay. Or not much of a night. Oof. Okay. Yep. Okay. I got a card that's called the Egg Thief. And this is Kenneth.
Oh, of course it is. Poor Kenneth.
Above our wretched shelter, vast screaming hordes of gulls, auks, murres, and puffins taunt us. They nest in the cliffs, and those nests contain eggs. I alone have the courage and stamina to make the attempt, and I scale half the cliff like a triumphant goat, and I eat my fill. There is no practical way down, though, and the fall is the end of me. And this is, I imagine they're like exhausted on the beach. Kenneth starts talking about this, and Portugal's like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Do not do it. I grew up here. You can't get those eggs. Don't do it. And he doesn't listen. And then Kenneth just cartwheels to the beach and is gone.
Yeah. And then, like, the last thing that I think anyone hears is Portugal hearing Kenneth shouting, like, I got it. I've got the eggs. And, like, then nothing.
Yeah, and there's a moment when Portugal reaches out and grabs his lapel like he did when he pulled him up away from the sinking ship, but he's too weak to hold on.
Yeah.
And Kenneth, of course, is full of energy.
Now you taking a Badarka. I think this is Anne.
Nice.
I think Anne, this is a lady. Off the beach, I see a sight. It is an Alutuk in a Badarka. And remarkably, it is a woman who is nursing a child. I gesture to her, do you have any food? And she, and wade into the water, and she paddles away in her graceful little skin boat. Perhaps she will alert someone. Perhaps I imagined her. I'm not going to answer the question of whether it was imagined or not, but I think Anne is still, like, I think Anne is like, shock is giving way to, shock and fascination is giving way to delusion, and like, is imagining all the ways that she like could get them out of this, that she could be the hero of this story. And like, whether or not that was a real thing that happened or an imagined thing, or whether or not the signals made sense or they saw one another, Anne is full on delusional into believing that she is going to single-handedly get everyone back to safety.
I think there's a moment when it starts to really rain, it starts to really pour, and Anne gets up to go to the Barabara, and Portugal just sort of puts a gentle hand on her and shakes his head. That's not a place for us. We can't go there.
Yeah.
It's like two weird kingdoms now.
It's great. It's real good.
Oh, it's not good at all. Westenkopf.
Yeah.
Westenkopf in the Barbara, a dreadful calculus. Hunger beats like a drum and focuses the mind wonderfully. I've eaten my belt, salty and horrid, and was prepared to start on my shoes when a cautionary note sounded in my brain. To lose my shoes would invite a loss of my feet. It is a dreadful calculus. I am so very hungry. I think Westenkopf, with no other people around except for Brown, feels a little exposed. Like maybe you backed the wrong horse, you're in the wrong place. And Westenkopf would very much like to leave Brown, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
So,
the second that he turns his back is the second he gets beaten to death.
Yep. So there's a real tense misery inside the Barbara. Yeah.
Oh, we know
We know who
exactly
this
what this is. Poor Portugal, my secret. I have a corrupted wound and have hidden it as long as I was able, but it has gone black and foul, and then the limb must come off. The thing must be done with a cod knife, and I suppose I will live through it.
God damn.
I mean, and it's made like the injury to his foot was made just so much worse by the fact that like he he made the choice to like keep walking on it and keep like using it, and just like he could feel the pain, and it got even worse when he couldn't feel the pain anymore. Like, but he was just like, I don't have the luxury of stopping to treat this until the foot has to come off altogether.
So who's doing it? Like, somebody literally has to cut his leg off. I guess it's both of them, right? It's David and Anne.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's messed up.
That's messed up.
It's probably David Towns who has to do the cutting while Anne like holds him down and comforts him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
Actually, I'm going to say it's the opposite.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think David insists on holding him down, and Anne and forces Anne to do it, and she does it shockingly comfortably.
Yeah, no, that's great. And keeps the cod knife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. Like Portugal's like, of course David Towns is going to cut my leg off. And then that's
Anne just takes the knife and David's like, I'm not doing it. No. Yeah. I have no interest in that.
I'm a gentleman.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, this is fucking great.
Go. Whoa.
This is Lesnikov. Okay. Now the card is called The Custom of the Sea. We have no food, and it is the custom of the sea that the majority must eat. Lots are drawn, and I am chosen to sacrifice myself for the greater good. There is nothing noble about it, and I die struggling. Speak your truth and go to the deep. Any survivor who refuses to partake of your corpse goes to the deep as well. So, Jeff, we need to think about that. But
yeah,
the first part of that, of course, is that Brown is like, we're going to have a democratic election and decide who dies. And surprise, surprise, the outcome of that democratic election is that Westenkopf is going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way around that. Westenkopf is dead. Again, Brown just fucking kills him.
Just beats him to death.
So Brown obviously has no trouble eating human flesh at this point. But Anne, Portugal, and David are all starving.
Uh-huh.
So they probably smell it.
Yeah.
Wafting down the beach, the sort of pork barbecue kind of smell of cooking meat, and they all have the choice to make. And this, in a way, this is Brown enticing them back into his sway.
Yep. And I think I have a pitch on who doesn't partake.
Yeah, lay it on me.
I think Portugal is the only one that doesn't partake.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, he would never. David absolutely would. And it's like, you are my new master, for sure. And Anne wants to live.
Yeah.
You know, whatever that means.
Uh-huh.
She's not going to starve to death in the presence of food. Which means Brown's in charge of both of them now.
This is Anne coming to her senses. The card is too weak and too lost. I believe we are somewhere south and west of familiar waters, landed on a remote piece of ground in the Fox Islands. This is all academic, of course, because despite its grandeur, every place here is much the same, and the scale so vast we will never be discovered. We are too weak to rescue ourselves and too lost to ever be found. For all of her delusions, all of her shock, like, there is a moment of clarity that comes, which is, we are doomed if we stay here. Like, all of the things Portugal has said has finally settled in for Anne now that Portugal is gone. And it's it is a moment of clarity of, oh God, I'm staying in the house with the man that killed my father and also 3 other people. Oh my God.
Cannibal.
Also, I'm a cannibal. Also, there is no hope for finding us. Like, it all just settles in an instant. And like that all of that sense of delusion is gone in a heartbeat.
I love that so much because the next card, the very next card, as soon as Anne gives up, we have salvation. That's poetic in its timing. And the card salvation.
The schooner Albatross appears and the beach is soon swarming with her cod dories. Survivors, speak your truth.
Oh, man.
What a 3 to survive. I'm so angry at this moment.
Yep. Of the 3, like, Anne is a very sympathetic character. I'm glad that she's alive.
Yeah.
But the other 2, man, I don't know. There are definitely people I would have swapped out for David Towns if given the choice.
I think I'm madder about David Towns than I am Brown, if I'm being honest.
Because, like, Brown is a lunatic. He's going to be put in chains and, like...
And tried for murder and, like, face consequences. Towns...
No, nothing. He'll be fine.
I think speaking truth for Towns specifically, and it sucks to say this, it makes me so mad to say these words, Towns is going to be fine.
Yeah. This is good for Towns.
Towns is going to write a book about this experience and about like his survivor story, and like is gonna like have a shot at a life of comfort after this, and like he's gonna carry on a little, like he's gonna use this to carry on a gospel and make some money, and like Towns is going to live, and like Towns is gonna walk away from this okay. And as haunted as he is by the experience, he is going to leverage the hell out of this in a way that Jeff 2024 is furious about.
Yeah, I hear you. So I think that the way we see how these truths resolve for these 2 is that they meet again 20 years later. Right? David's on a fucking book tour for yet another edition of his quasi-religious autobiography of how he was saved, which is not true, right? Like, he lies throughout it, and the only person who really knows that is Anne. And now she's 20 years older, so she's 37, and I think life has not been great for her. Like, she had a lot of trauma from this. She couldn't really hack it in finishing school, and she just kind of descended into sort of a grim life in New York City. So they meet again, and they're now of dramatically different social classes, and the only thing they have in common is this shared experience. Does that seem right?
Yeah, it does. And you saying the words, not to reveal when we recorded this, but you saying the words that Anne is 37 at the time, and hearing that on my 37th birthday is really fucking with me at this moment.
Yes.
It's really fucking with me.
You are welcome.
And
happy birthday.
I think truly, Anne, like, there's this moment where I think we see a lot of things. We see Anne, like, they meet at like maybe Towns invites her to a dinner, like, that he is like, and he's paying, and like,
it's at Delmonico's. It's at the finest restaurant in New York City.
And like has invited her out, and like, we see her grab a steak knife and just stab him repeatedly. we see her grab like a pot, like a teapot, a kettle of water, and just throw it in his face. And we flash back, and she's just at the table. Like, that sense of violence, that gruesome survival instinct has never gone away.
Yeah,
and she is like forced to live with that. And unlike Towns, she like isn't able, like, it's just this sense of like, she's like, I put this behind me, but I feel the pull to hurt you, and with every fiber of my being, and like, I'm choosing not to, and that is a kindness to you.
Oh man. And you know, there's a way you hold a cod knife, right? And it's not the way you hold a steak knife. So like, you see that, and we just know where her mind is in that one sad moment. And eventually she's like, I need to go. My children are waiting for me. I can't stay here.
Yeah. And then she just leaves.
I can't spend all night eating. I gotta go.
And she just leaves, and they never speak again. And that is game.
Yep. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. This was incredible.
Such a sad tale. I never get tired of this, and it's so fun to see the sort of the narrative trajectories of these characters because it's always different. There are some things that are fairly, like David Towns is always kind of an asshole, but the way that manifests is always different, and the characters, there's too many characters for them to all come into focus, and so the ones that people really gravitate to, it's always fascinating to see, and the ones that people fight to keep alive, it's always fun to see.
What was your favorite moment of the game today?
Oh man, I like that denouement. I love the way it turned out. Where there's this clear sense that we can look 20 years in the future. It's now, it's
1918.
It's during the Great War, right? It's a flu pandemic, and they're meeting at a restaurant, and things have just changed for them so dramatically. And Anne got nothing. She had all these dreams. She was just a person full of life. And David Towns, he's just good, like a perfect bow to tie on that story. How about you? What was your favorite moment?
I really loved the little stories that emerged and like the little moments early on where you could see that things were going to explode. Like, particularly, the moment where Towns went to Captain Nickerson and Captain Nickerson said, I don't give a shit. Fuck off. Like, leave me alone.
Yep.
And like knowing that night, like knowing that was going to be like a Joker moment was delightful. Yeah. And just like watching all of those moments. The other moment that really stood out to me that like really like hit was when I flipped the card about like somebody has to die, somebody's got to change ships, and knowing that Harris had a ship that was like well suited to fishing, but knowing that he was a coward who would immediately jump to whichever ship had the most people on it, and also knowing that we had not said who had been spreading lies about David and that Harris was an actor that didn't really want to be here. All of those things, like, it's one of those things where there are so many different stories, and the moment when you can spot, okay, this is where it all clicks together, is joyful to me. Like, that's magic.
Yep. And the something I genuinely love about this game is that you made a choice that matched a series of patterns right there. But you could have made a different choice, and it also would have been good.
Yeah, 100%.
Like there are obvious trajectories, and sometimes there are non-obvious trajectories that are both really satisfying. Like we had a whole arc with Portugal where he hurt his foot, and then his foot got infected and had to get cut off. And like that sometimes that happens, but it doesn't have to be that way. Sometimes I played in a game where David Towns, right from the jump in hell, was hiding a wound that no one knew about, and it had nothing to do with any of the other stuff that went on, and that turned into a big deal. So like it can go in lots of ways that are equally satisfying, just because of the way our brains work.
Yeah, so. I love that. It's that to me is the magic of like games and play, and like especially the flow and structure of Desperation, where like it's a decision is going to be made, but like looking at the pieces and going, what happens when each of these characters makes this decision, and which of those pathways is the most satisfying, is such an interesting and like novel approach to this kind of experience that like it really hits all of my buttons, and I'm so grateful that we got to play this together.
Me too.
Thank you so much. This was a joy. Real quick before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Yeah, so my company is Bully Pulpit Games. We're at bullypulpitgames.com, which is where you can get Desperation, if this sounds fun to you, by some definition of fun. And then on social media, I'm at JMStar, and you can find me in places like Blue Sky.
Phenomenal. Well, thank you so much for this. This ripped. I'm overwhelmingly happy. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take a future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Jason for coming on to the show. Oh my God, I love this game so much. And like getting to play this game and play in this space was so absolutely exciting and delightful. I was over the moon with it. Like, this was just the best thing in the world. I loved this. Be sure to head to bullypulpitgames.com to pick up your own copy of Desperation, as well as check out Jason's other work. Like I said, Fiasco, Grey Ranks, Winterhorn, so many games that like I hold in my heart as deeply important. You can find all of those at bullypulpitgames.com. You can find all of those in the show notes for more information, or you can follow Bully Pulpit Games at Twitter or Blue Sky at bullypulpit_HQ. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Party of One Podcast. Find us on TikTok at Party of One Podcast. Find us on Tumblr at Party of One Pod. Subscribe to our newsletter at buttondown.email/Party of One Podcast. And join our Discord community at bit.ly/Party of One Discord. If you enjoy the show, there's a lot of ways to support it. You can support us financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. You can give us a nice iTunes review, shout us out to a friend, give us some love on social media. You can buy some Party of One merch at bit.ly/Party of One merch. Or if you're looking for more great podcast content, you can check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world building podcast that I make with my best friend in the world, Aaron Catano Saez. We take a listener submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is an actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their homes inside. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logos by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And unless I am mistaken, that is all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.